CEO of WebsterBerry Marketing and author of Content Canon, Arias holds over a decade's worth of experience in marketing. Today, we learn about the 6 pillars of Arias' book and how you can become a source of authority and a leader within your industry. We'll also go deep into one of my favorite topics of marketing, the psychology of marketing. And we'll also touch on how you can overcome the struggle of telling your story and how you can learn to want to be in front of the camera. Let's welcome Arias to the pod. It's an absolute pleasure to be joined by Arias WebsterBerry. Arias, how's things going for you?
Didier, it's amazing. This has been an amazing year. We're only a few weeks into it. It is looking like it's going to be one for the record book. So I'm ecstatic. I woke up today, so I feel like I'm winning.
I'm very pleased for you. It's always a good way to start off the year on a positive footnote. And if you can set yourself up for the next 12 months to be looking to break some records, what better a way to be? And very, very happy for yourself.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
Well, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. You've got over a decade's worth of experience in marketing. And today we're going to really uncover a lot around the psychology of marketing. And for me personally, that's one of my favorite areas of marketing. And I'm glad that we're talking about that today because it's an area that, for the most part, a lot of marketers tend to misinterpret, or they tend to push it to one side altogether. So being able to explore that today, explore its importance, is going to be really fascinating. And beyond that, we're also going to be talking about, of course, your book, The Content Canon. That's a really interesting area, and I'd love to go into depth with you about those 6 pillars later on today as well. And then a little bit about storytelling, which is, of course, for me personally in video, that's all about storytelling. And I know you've done a lot of work with storytelling over the years as well. So to start us off, Arias, why do you think the understanding of human psychology is so critical in marketing?
Um, I think that the key is you need to start with understanding your target demographic and make sure that not only are you looking to speak to them when you're creating content or marketing materials, but also taking them into consideration when you are actually creating your products or services. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with entrepreneurs and I ask them who their target demo is, and they kind of get this bewildered look in their eyes, like, huh? What do I'm supposed to be, thinking about somebody when I think about starting a business? And if you don't know who you're talking to, well, you definitely can't get into their mind. And if you can't get in their mind, well, you may be, in the complete wrong area of the forest, right? You're just kind of venturing around. You really, really need to lock in who you're speaking to, and then you have to get into what it is that they're feeling. What um, terminology do they use? What pain points do they have? Uh, you know, uh, really, who are they as a person?
So then, Arias, why do you think a lot of people tend to overstep that hurdle when they first start out with their business? They go past trying to understand who they're actually trying to target, and they just go on about their everyday tasks.
I believe that most people, especially early and young entrepreneurs, are just trying to get to market. They are just trying to get their product in front of someone. And, business is tough and it's a lot of work. And there's a lot of steps in sitting down and figuring out what someone's thinking and going through that exercise and putting together a whole document just around the psychology and the mental of your target demographic. I don't think that it enters their mind. I think that even when they think about thinking about what they're thinking about, it just puts them in a frozen state, and I think they just kind of want to get to it. So it's short short-sightedness. It is out of necessity of you needing to get to profit as soon as possible, and it's a lack of formal training on the steps that it takes to really build a business and execute marketing efficiently.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. That rush to get to profit as soon as possible, and that especially in that first 3 to 5 years of business, is that entire mindset is just get there, get past breaking even, find a little bit of profit, and then we'll worry about all the fires that have been created in the meantime. I think, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. In terms of the common principles that are overlooked as it relates to trying to understand who your target audience is, what would you say those principles are? What are the maybe the 3 or 5 different things that people need to be aware of when they're trying to target their audience, but they're tending to overlook that a little bit?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and we'll get into a couple points, but the biggest thing is you're trying to get them to make a decision, right? And one of the biggest drivers of decision making is feeling certain, right? Having certainty that you're making the right decision. And when a brand can provide that certainty, well, it builds confidence in their audience. That's why tools like Content Cannon are so important. They provide you some structure and some consistency, which are key to building trust over time. A lot of those key points are the emotional triggers that go along with getting someone to make a decision and feel comfortable and certain. So those emotional triggers are fear and joy and aspiration and accomplishment, feeling included, right? Those are powerful motivators that move people forward and move them to making a purchase decision. Another thing that you need to focus on is social proof. It's one of the strongest psychological triggers that you can use in your marketing. People trust what recommend. They trust what others recommend. They trust reviews. They trust testimonials. They trust user generated content, because those people don't have a vested interest typically in saying nice things about you. And if you've got a number of people that are saying nice things about you in multiple formats over a long period of time, that tells them that they can trust you. It tells them that a lot of people are certain about the results of your product or your service. And also, one of the big things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs overlook in kind of the psychology of this thing is simplifying their wins. So a lot of times they overload customers with choices or enormous amounts of information, and they get what we call analysis paralysis. And they're sitting there staring at a massive page that you created this great website and you've got all this text telling them everything that they could possibly know about your business, but it's information overload. Or maybe you have 12 different color options for your product in 12 different sizes, and they can customize with different words, and you even let them pick their packaging. It's too much, right? You have to simplify it and make it easy for them to get a win. People forget that purchasing is extremely emotional. A lot of people have addictions to shopping and buying things. There's a dopamine hit when you buy something. There's an even bigger dopamine hit when it is delivered to your house or when you get to use it. Right? It's like a kid unwrapping a present for the first time. I bought this thing. Oh, it's here. I get to use it. It's going to solve my problem. So you want to help them get that simple win by making it easy for them to choose you, making the checkout process easy, making the process of accessing it or receiving it easy, so that the psychology of it is it's easy. I'll do it. No brainer. Here's my information.
Yeah, I love that. You touched on at the start there emotions. And for me, the emotions of marketing, that is one of my favorite areas. And it's very closely linked, of course, with the psychology of marketing. When we're creating films for our clients, the emotions are all forefront. And I love how you touched on there. You've got the fear, and then it goes to the joy afterwards.
Mhm.
And that contrast between the before emotions, before experiencing the impact of a business versus the after you experience it, that contrast is what you can sell on, right? Like that's what you can hook onto. You can hook onto that, the fear and the frustrations, the anger, the guilt of a customer beforehand, and hook them in and have that bit of FOMO that's created from showing them what their life could be, and showing them the joy and the happiness and the elation, the satisfaction. How do you see that working in from the work that you've done over the years? How have you seen that integration of emotions through your work?
Yeah, in my experience, the greatest marketers, the greatest businesses, the greatest content creators are those that can consistently get their target demo or the watcher, the viewer, to revert to the state that they're at when they're the most um, fearful, right, or the most in lack or in need of, right? Your content needs to get them to say, lean forward and say, yeah, that happens all the time. That's me, right? You want
Mm,
them to have a mental hand raised moment that says, yeah, I have that problem every single time. And as you kind of go down the laundry list of symptoms, usually the big two, three, or four, it should open them up, and they should, absolutely perk up and and you know completely be receptive to your message, right? It should resonate very deeply with them. When you take them there, and then you show them your unique mechanism or your unique set of features, and then you move on to the benefits and how it's actually going to solve their problem. Well, then they go from that, I have a problem, to, oh, you've got a solution. And that aha or that oh moment is what you're looking for. That's that critical moment that makes them say, hey, I really need this thing that you have. The problem is most people start with the features, and they don't get to the root of the problem first. All products and services are rooted in solving a problem or a transformation, right? Whether you are in the fitness industry and you're trying to take somebody from a state that they don't like with their body or their fitness level to, being beach ready. Or if, they're purchasing a car, they either don't have one, it's broken down, it doesn't, serve their needs, it's causing a problem either for their family or maybe with work, or even status, right? The status that they're trying to achieve is not synonymous with the vehicle that they drive. To, hey, now I can get to work with ease. Now I can chauffeur my family around. Now I can, when I pull up to a restaurant, people look at me and they see the vehicle that I drive and they say, wow, you're doing well, right?
mm.
You're solving that problem, and you have to realize that your marketing has to clearly convey the transformation that they're going to undergo if they do business with you.
So, uh, as we're talking about video marketing, content marketing, how have you seen, or what are some great examples that you've seen over your work with your clients of brands showing that transformation, highlighting that transformation through their short form content, their short form video content, as an example? How have you seen that transformation take hold, and the successful ones that have stood out to you?
Yeah, actually, recently we announced a big partnership with a company called JetQuest. They are a luxury international travel brand. So they take large groups of people, medium sized, small to medium sized groups of people to, luxury villas and five-star accommodations, and they kind of plan the entire thing. They've been doing an amazing job with their short form content in showing the mundane of every day, or maybe how you vacation, right? Maybe you just go to a city that's maybe an hour or two away, get a hotel or Airbnb, and kind of stroll around. In comparison to going on a jet quest, when they plan everything so it's stress free. All you have to do is pay them, and then you arrive and there's a car waiting for you that takes you to this luxury space, and you get there and they've got champagne and drinks for you, and there's a yacht party and a day party, and you're eating, shrimp and lobster on a rooftop, or you're doing a backflip off of a boat. They're doing an amazing job of showing what it's like and how carefree and easy and fun it is when you work with them.
I think I love that. That approach, that sounds good. It sounds like I want to be part of one of their travel tours. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, exactly. All content should make someone consider their current state and say, "Ah, I just need to go with these guys. They've got it figured out. All I need to do is give them my money and they're going to solve my problem."
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree. When we talk about content, though, one of the biggest drawbacks that a lot of companies have is if they're not able to invest in a professional company creating that content for them, they have to do it in house. And then the problem that occurs with that is that they get overwhelmed, they get burnt out because they have to create content on an ongoing basis. They have to hit multiple platforms, or in some cases, they feel like they need to hit every platform, but they don't really. And so they get burnt out. And you've brought forward a little bit of a solution to this through your book, The Content Canon, which you launched in 2023. And it's talking about how you can create 1 month's worth of content in one day. And to do this, you speak around 6 pillars that can help individuals and brands do this. So what are those 6 pillars that help brands create 1 month's worth of content in a single day?
Yeah, thanks for the plug. The content canon is a culmination of years and years of us working with hundreds of brands and truly figuring out how internally we could service all of our clients efficiently, and still give them quality even though our client list was growing and growing. And we decided that sitting them down and getting everything that we needed from them at once was the best strategy, because if you let them off the phone or you let them go, it may be weeks before you get them to get you what you need. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, before we started doing this, it's really difficult for you to set aside time to create content. It's even more difficult to create enough content. And eventually, once you start creating content, actually before, during, and after, you kind of get into a rhythm. A lot of times, you just don't know what to create. So the process is there, and it's based on these 6 pillars that allows you to establish authority and build connections with your audience. So uh, they are, you need to start with long form content. You need to repurpose. You need to distribute far and wide. Make sure that you're focusing on authority building, consistency, and then engagement. So with long form content, you want to start with one kind of core idea or a core piece of content. And usually we do that with video. So let's say a 6, 7, 8, 10 minute video, trying to create a script that's long and that kind of has multiple points within it, maybe three to 4 or 5 points or main points within it. And then you kind of take your time to tighten that up. Once you have that, you can record it and you can then cut that down into clips. So let's say you got a 7 minute video, maybe you can get 4 or 5 30-second clips that are really impactful and kind of get to the meat of those different points that were in that video. You can also take the transcript of that video and maybe grab a couple tweets out of that. You can maybe you have some specific vernacular that you use, or specific words or phrases that you use in your community or internally in your company. You can use those as power phrases or text overlays on a static image, right? You can take specific quotes out of that and you just take a picture of yourself and do text overlay that way, right? Didier said this, or he always says this. So it allows you to take one piece of content and turn it into 10, 15 pieces of content just off of you really sitting down and coming up with that one thing. And that the long form, that takes you to the second point, which is repurposing, right? Trying to stretch what you're doing instead of putting all of your eggs in one basket and just creating one great video. Try to get as much out of that as possible. Try to turn it into a tweet. Try to turn it into a video or a clip. You can even strip off the audio and maybe publish it to something like Spotify, right? And turn it into a audio podcast. There's a lot of different ways. The amount of ways that you can repurpose the content is limited simply by your imagination. And then once you get all that, you got to distribute it, get it out there, get it many places as you can, right? Like put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, TikTok, Yelp. I don't know. Put it anywhere you can put it. And when you do that, it truly builds your authority, right? Whenever you're publishing things consistently over a period of time, people can't help to look to you as the authority when you do that thing consistently.
Yeah, that's a really important point there. Consistently continue showing up day after day after day. I love looking at short and long form content in a very similar mindset. It is create that longer form piece of content, whether it be, as you touched on there, a 10-minute video where it's got 4 or 5 different key points, or a podcast or a webinar, whatever it may be, and then taking it down from there into those shorter clips, using that as a blog post or a podcast or whatever it may be. And from
Mhm.
another perspective as well, bringing in a little bit of the sales aspect into it, I always see short form and long form content being very similar to the sales cycle. Because, of course, if you have the sales cycle, you've got major touch points and minor touch points, right? The major touch points
Mhm.
being a boardroom meeting or a call with a prospect. In With the minor touch points, it could be you comment on a prospect's post on LinkedIn, or you see them down the street, you say hello, whatever it may be. The short form content very similar to those minor touch points in that you keep showing up on a consistent basis, you stay front of mind, you keep showing your face all the time so that you're always there. And then those longer form pieces of content where if you're providing the true value that you can provide and your prospect, your audience that is watching it is getting a ton of value out of it, they're going to stay there from
Mhm.
minute 1 all the way through to minute 20, 60, or whatever it may be. And you know that if you can keep someone's attention for that entire time span and give them value for that time span, then their connection to your business is going to be very, very strong. And so
Mhm.
that's an example there of a major touch point. You're drawing them a little bit closer to your business. So I love your approach there with focusing on that longer piece first, solidifying that, really refining it, getting it better and better and better, and then saying, all right, we've ticked this box, we've got that as near perfect as possible, and then just create the shorter form pieces of content from there.
Yeah, yeah, and when you do these things, then you're going to see the engagement, right? If you're paying attention and you're not just checking the box, like, "Hey, I gotta post up. Let me move on." If you're actually doing it and you are trying to provide value, if you are paying attention to the response of your audience, you post something and usually maybe you get 1,000 views or 100 views, and then you post something and it's like two. It's like, oh, I did something horribly wrong. I need to kind of deconstruct this and figure out, what did I post at the wrong time? Was there something on my face? I don't know. I need to figure out what the problem is. And you start to work towards the engagement as an indicator that you are in the right space. You will gradually create, better content. You'll get to know the psychology of your customer a lot more because they're going to give you that feedback, and it should also inform the products and services that you make, and allow you to optimize those services.
So using this 6 pillar framework that you've created, the content canon, how have you seen that be implemented in a real world situation? And what have been the outcomes of that? What are the successes? Has there been any failures? What has been the outcome that you've seen as a result of people implementing this system?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, some of the biggest influencers that we know, people like Alex Hormozy, Gary V, all of these guys, they use these strategies. They're doing it at an extremely high level because they have massive teams and they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on videographers and photographers and editors and things like that. But all of the largest companies, content producers, influencers are using this strategy to make sure that they're staying in constant communication with their consumer. They're having a dialogue with them through their content. And with our agency, one of our clients, Coach Dr. J, has had amazing results with her content. And I love using her as an example because many times we get overly concerned with vanity metrics. We
Mm,
post a video and it's like, oh, well, it didn't get as many videos or views as I thought it would. My post didn't get as many likes. It didn't get as many comments, as many impressions, right? And we forget that every single one of those views, every single one of those impressions is an individual person. And the goal is not to be the most popular person on the planet. If you're a business owner, your goal is to pull in clients and actually help them solve a problem with your product or service. And she has done amazing. She, doesn't have a million followers on Instagram. I think she's got maybe 20,000 or something like that. And she's built that over several years. But since she's been working with us with our social authority product, she's actually entered into negotiations with two companies with six-figure contracts.
wow.
And if you look at her videos, they get like two or 300 views. Nothing, spectacular, right? She's in a very niche industry, but when you focus on the quality, when you focus on providing value, and you're more focused with following up with the people that do engage instead of trying to get to the people who didn't, well, then you typically get more actual tangible results that move your business forward.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to remember is if you get 300 views on a video, if you were to speak in front of 300 people and you look out amongst the crowd, that is a lot of people. And
Hmm.
social media has really removed that perspective from a lot of people. Even 1,000 views, 1,000 people in a room, it's a big, big number. So you don't have to aim for those millions and millions and hundreds of thousands of views. Because as you touched on there, if your goal as a business owner is to bring customers in, you don't need the million customers to come through the door. You can put a video out, get 1,000 views, and you might convert 1% of that 1,000. But that 1% is
Hmm.
still a very, very big number in being 10 customers, right? Like coming through the door. That's still very significant.
Yeah, and the key with the consistency is it's amazed me over the years. I mentor entrepreneurs. I have a huge network of people in the business community, and whenever I'm in various places and I run into people, uh, they always say, "Oh yeah, I saw your video," and I'm like, "Man, that video only got like 100 views or 200 views or 1,000 or whatever." But again, it reminds me that there's a person behind the number, and like you said, you we trivialize that number like it's not a room full of people or a banquet hall full of
Yeah.
people that saw your video. And typically when I am out and about and I meet these people, they say, "Oh, I've been meaning to reach out to you. I keep forgetting to give you a call or send you an email. I've been wanting to talk to you. So I was just thinking about you the other day." And that's what we mean by top of mind, right?
Yes.
That content keeps you on their brain. And whether they've, left a comment or liked or whatever, you're still on top of their mind. And when they have that problem or when the need or the pain gets, big enough, they're going to reach out and call. And if you are consistent in this thing, well, then you're going to be the first call that they make.
100%. Yeah, there's a lot of research that's been done, and they've found that only three alternatives can be presented for each solution. So if you need to go and lose weight and you're looking for potential gyms, you're only going to be keeping front of mind three different options. And that's
Mhm.
applicable to all different industries and pain points. So if you can make sure that you're one of those three, and ideally you're the number one choice out of those three every time, just by showing up on a daily basis. I get the exact same thing as you. I'll see people at networking events or down the street or whatever, and they say, "Hey, I've been seeing your posts on LinkedIn all the time," and I'm like, "Well, I don't see the like come through. I don't see the comment, but it's the silent majority, and it's that silent majority that aren't the ones necessarily engaging, but they're the ones watching it that
Mhm.
will reach out when that pain point, as you touched on there, when that pain is so powerful, and it's time for them to make that jump. They will give you a call. They'll send you an email. They'll get in touch.
Or they won't if you're not creating the content.
Correct. 100%. Got to be consistent and keep showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a really good lesson, I suppose, in becoming that source of authority and becoming a leader within your industry. What role then do you think storytelling has in that? We touched on the emotions and the psychology of marketing earlier on. Storytelling is very much interwoven between both of those aspects. So, in terms of becoming a leader in your industry, a source of authority, how do you see storytelling coming into that and being able to tell the story of both oneself as an individual, but also of a brand and being able to build a brand story out of that?
Yeah, that's huge. Authority is well, they've interchanged the word authority with influence now,
Mhm.
but authority isn't given; it's earned. Through what we just said, consistency, through credibility and visibility. And to establish authority, you need to show up where your audience is, and you need to do it in a way that's producing easily recognizable value. And that means creating content that educates, it inspires, and it solves a problem. And the best way for you to draw people in is with storytelling. Storytelling is, the most powerful tool that any marketer can have, because stories create emotion, and emotions move people to buy, right?
Yeah.
It bonds them to you. It gets them to connect. People may forget the stats or the features of your product, your service, but they remember how the story made them feel. And the key to a great story is is making your audience the hero,
Mhm.
right? Making them see themselves winning in their own head. you know a lot of business owners and marketers make the mistake of making themselves the star or the hero of the story. They don't care about you, they care about themselves, right? That's why the word I and me are the most used words in all language. You know, you need to be the guide who helps them solve their problem. And whether it's a brand story or a customer success story, the focus should always be on you showing the audience how they win, how they become the hero, and what's possible for them.
Yeah, agreed. Show that you are the one that will facilitate that success. Show that you're the one that they need to go to. In terms of bringing the storytelling to fruition, I remember hearing a great lesson by Vin Jane. Do you know Vin, the communication specialist? I think people would
Yeah,
call him.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So he had a
The guy with glasses, right?
yeah, correct. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome.
he's fantastic. He's absolutely brilliant. And one of my favorite lessons from him in relation to storytelling was find what the story is that you want to bring forward. Say it
Mm,
as long as you need to, and time yourself doing that. See how long it takes. And then
hmm
from there, if it takes you 5 minutes, all right, condense that and make it three. Then condense it and make it two and one. And then can you find a way to say that story in 15 seconds and 30 seconds? And I think
mm,
that exercise, as difficult as it can be for many different people and for many different stories, it is so
hmm
effective because in today's day and age, we have to be able to speak articulately and do it in a manner that is very concise and quick and get the message across straight away.
hmm
The human attention span is 8 seconds. So being able to tell one story in such a small time space, present that on social media through content, so critical to the success of individual brands as well as company brands.
I agree. And he's a master storyteller, right? He literally wrote the book on it.
Yeah.
um, it's critical, and there's a couple key tips that we usually use, or we have expressed even in our entrepreneurship program. You want to start with relatability. You want to open with the challenge or the situation that your audience can see themselves in or relate to. Many times we open with the end of the story, right? the solution, and hey, I'm great and I've done this and I'm amazing, and my product is amazing. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Well, that's too early in the story. That's not where your audience lives, because if they have all of those things, well, why do they need you?
Mm,
Right? You have to start with being relatable in taking them back to where they currently are and making sure you dig in and probe for pain. And then you move on and highlight the transformation. So you show how your solution or your approach leads to success, or it leads them to where they want to be, right? And then the biggest thing is again getting them to believe you. So hey, yeah, you understand where they are, you have a solution, but how do I know that you're not full of crap? Well, you need to give them real life examples or experiences that you have had, or show them some of your past clients, so that they can see that the story is authentic, and it's also going to make it more memorable, right? You know that you have a lifelong customer when they are speaking about your brand or your product or service or you, and they can recall a story about someone else that you helped, or how this helps someone. And they say, hey, yeah, he they can, if they can go through the whole cycle, but if they can give you a story that you gave them, a testimonial of someone who started here and ended there, well, you've got a lifelong customer. Because if they weren't interested and if they didn't care, they definitely wouldn't commit it to memory.
yeah, I definitely agree on all those points there. One other aspect I'd like to bring in here to add to the conversation as well, to in terms of building authority and bringing storytelling through that as well, is the idea behind partnerships, collaborations. You touched on that a little bit in your book around the use of celebrities and that kind of aspect, influencers, I suppose, as well. How do you see those work in being able to tell a story of a brand by bringing in the correct influencer, the correct celebrity, or partnering with another company? How do you see that all coming together to ultimately bring through authority and influence?
When done properly, I mean, it can be magical. You can see lifelong partnerships that not only enrich both parties, but also get to the actual point, which is helping, people get your products and services. I think that this is probably one of the most overlooked opportunities in marketing. Um, I believe that most people feel that these types of collaborations and partnerships are only, for large companies who have huge budgets, or have, really large marketing teams. And that's not the case. I think that the best partnerships that are usually the most lucrative and the easiest to pull off, especially for small businesses, are ones that are a natural fit and you can find those typically in adjacent businesses, right? So if you are maybe if you make custom shoes, find a guy who makes custom socks.
Mm,
you know
yeah, yeah.
Literally sock in shoe. If you are um, a hairdresser, right? You own a salon. Find a company that sells hair or sells hair products, right? Or maybe brushes, and see if you guys can come together for some special line or special promotion. We are actually in the middle of something right now. We're working with a whole lot of photographers with um, our public relations division. So we're working with people who are already talking to people who care about their image enough to pay someone to capture it professionally. Well, why don't we take that image and help you get it out to the masses by publicizing it and maybe getting you into some articles or getting you on TV or on radio, right?
Mm,
That's a natural partnership. It allows them to make some extra money through our affiliate program, and it gives us a lead source, right? Um, you'd be surprised how many of those partnerships, those natural alliances, can be forged relatively quickly, because every business is looking for more customers. They're looking for more revenue, and honestly, as a entrepreneur, I'm looking for allies. I'm
yes.
looking for buddies. I'm looking for someone who is in this hunt just like me, and is willing to lock arms and run as fast as we can.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And collaborations, partnerships with other businesses, one of the most fundamentally sound moves that you can make as a business owner to craft a connection, especially with those that are similar to you, as you touched on there, socks and shoemakers, bring them together. For us in video, and you're in marketing as well, of course, maybe it's with a strategic marketing firm or a branding firm or whatever it may be. Create that partnership where you can just funnel through clients for each other and really build each other up like that. Of course,
Indeed, yeah,
the expensive alternative, as we touched on at the start there, celebrities, influencers. They want the cash. That's how they operate. Of course, that's
yeah,
understandable.
yeah.
For a lot of SMEs, they may not have the budget for that, and that's okay. In which case, look for the collaborations. But if you can't find the collaborations or you're not quite in an environment where you can do that just yet, another way that it can be done is look inwards. If you've got a few employees, leverage them. One of the great
Mhm.
examples that I've seen in recent years here in Australia is Woolworths. So they're a large shopping centre, probably the biggest one in the country, some would argue. And
Mhm.
they had an employee, just a regular run of the mill cashier, stock the shelves, very basic level employee. And
Mhm.
he created a TikTok account, and it was just him posting reels of his life at Woolies, and it just blew up,
Like
right?
the Willis.
Just blew up like crazy. And so the marketing team at the corporate head office, they looked at this and they said, we've got to leverage this somehow. So they called him up and they said, do you want to become part of our greater content marketing? And we'll support you with all of that. And he said yes. So they joined forces and it just grew the brand even further. Now, this is obviously on a relatively large scale. It's a big company across the country, but we can take that
Yeah.
down to that micro level of the SME and show that if you don't have the budget for influencers, if you don't have the ability to go find those partnerships just yet, look at your employees, look at what skills they have, look at what abilities they have, and lean into that and see if they can, together with you, lift up your brand, help you become that source of authority and tell the story of your brand. And I think that's one of the greatest things. And it's one of the most cost effective as well.
Yeah, actually, another. It's not exactly in business, but it's similar. I don't know if you're familiar with the actress and producer Issa Rae.
No, I haven't heard of that name. No.
Yeah, so she's huge here now. She's had a hit show on HBO, and now she's in all kinds of blockbuster movies and all these different things. But she started with a internet TV show, just posting it on a blog, and eventually she put it on YouTube. And she lived in LA, and not sophisticated as a director or an actress or a editor by any stretch of the imagination. Very rudimentary early episodes. But the thing that she did really well that got her early success is, instead of, especially in LA, I used to live in LA, a lot of people, their projects will sit on the shelf because they're trying to get larger actors involved, right? They're trying to get a big
Mm,
studio to pick up their project. And she said, "Screw it. I'm just going to get my friends. Like, I'm going to ask my roommate, I'm going to ask my coworker, I'm going to ask my friend who happens to have a camera if they will all be actors in my show, if they'll all pitch in to help me kind of get this thing going." And instead of her waiting for, Sean Penn or some big actor to say, "Hey, I'd love to be in your thing and do a cameo," she just went after it, and she put it out. And because she was doing it consistently, it blew up, and eventually it caught the attention of HBO, and they gave her, a pilot episode. Well, they took the original episode, and then they kind of reworked it, released it, and then it turned into 7 seasons of gold. Right? She
wow.
ended up becoming one of the biggest shows on HBO. She then went on to not only star in great movies, but she's now directing and producing movies. She's opened her own production studio. She's got a studio where she actually records, and other creators and production teams use her facilities. In kind of what you said, right? Looking within and just trying to work with those that are close to you, and not waiting for the big celebrity or the big influencer and all the dollars, or maybe some huge production team or marketing team or whatever, right? It's just about you getting out there and getting it done. And a lot of times it's easier, it's faster, and it's smarter for you to work with the tools that you have and the people that are in your inner circle, instead of waiting for, some unicorn to come in and bless your project.
That is so inspiring. Fantastic. And I 100% agree. Just go out there, just start.
Hmm.
What's the worst that can happen? There's really not much. Just do it. And if you're waiting for that perfect time, it'll never come. It'll never come,
Hmm.
especially as it relates to her and the industry that she was wanting to get into. There's no way a
Hmm.
HBO is going to look at an amateur and say, "Oh yeah, we'll take on your thing." No chance. There is no
Right.
way. So you've got to find the other approach. And she just put out and she created and she looked within. And I think that is absolutely a fantastic lesson to take on board going into the content world and the world of video marketing is just start. Doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. Put it out there, see how it goes, refine it, take the lessons that you learnt, put out the next piece, repeat the process. And if you do
Hmm.
that for long enough, eventually you can scale it up. Eventually you can bring more people, get them involved, and just follow that process. And that's one of the greatest lessons out there for sure.
Yeah, as I say all the time, anybody who's ever seen me before, I always say, done is better than perfect, and progress over perfection.
Yeah.
You can always iterate, but you can't get the time back that you lost if you're trying to wait for it to be perfect. Or, as people say, I'm going to try to get my ducks in a row. If
Yeah.
you've ever seen ducks walking, ducks never get in a row, right? Never. So just get it out there, and learn from it and do better the next time.
I love that saying. That's fantastic. Ducks are very annoying for me. We have a number of ducks around our place down here, and they always
Yeah.
walk across the road. They never fly. They have wings. So maybe that's all
Right.
part of it. Maybe they don't fly to the destination. They take their time and they walk there, and eventually they get there and they have that success. Maybe that's all part of it.
Maybe.
Arias, it's been fantastic to chat. It's been fascinating to learn a little bit more about what it is that you've been able to do over your career and the successes that you've been able to find through the content canon strategy and implement that within your clients as well. As we finish up, I've got two questions for you as we finish up. First is, what is the biggest lesson that you've learnt over your career as a marketer? And then the second question to follow on from that, what one tip would you give to someone who is completely fresh to marketing for them to improve by 1% today?
Those are two great questions. Um, the greatest thing I've learned in marketing, I would probably say that um, creativity is one thing, but authenticity is always going to win. Um, People love creative things, they love innovation, right? But you being authentic and executing in authenticity, in being true to who you are, who you serve, being honest and having integrity, right? Those things in marketing, they shine through, and no level of creativity is going to serve you in business longer than having being authentic and having integrity. So those should be your foundational principles, and your creativity should spring out of what is authentic about your brand, and find kind of those touchstones, and always use them when you're creating anything marketing wise. Um, And then what I would say to someone who's starting is, um, mm, don't just create your mission and value statement and never look at it. You should be visiting that thing frequently and often. You should use it as a rubric, as your Bible, as the guide to everything that you do in your business, including your marketing. How does your vision statement and how does your mission statement come through in all the things that you're making, all the content, all of your products, all your emails and text messages, your business card, right? How do you make sure that that shines and you clearly convey what you're for and what you're not for? And is it easy for people to identify, what the pillars are in your business? Make sure that you hold tight to those things and you use them as your North Star.
A fantastic lesson learnt, authenticity over creativity, and a great
Mhm.
tip for someone starting out fresh. Create your mission and vision statements, come back to them regularly, and use them as a North Star for every step that you move forward. Arias, thank you so much. That is absolutely phenomenal. It's been great to chat. Where can everyone find you online and follow along with your journey and the value that you can provide for them in marketing?
Well, being in marketing, I am not hard to find. Luckily, if you Google Arias WebsterBerry, Arias, Webster like the dictionary, and then Berry, there's a ton of stuff that will come up. But you can find all my businesses, my books, my courses at ariaswebsterberry.com. If you are looking for marketing services, you can just go to websterberry.com, and someone on my team will be happy to talk to you and see if we can help.
Fantastic. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll speak very, very soon. Thanks for being a guest on Marketing for the Modern Brand.
Thank you for having me.